Hi everyone, welcome. We are Pro Pizza Training. Always a pleasure. I'm your host. My name is Tristan White. This is our session on the SAICA CA of the Future Competency Framework and Training Plans. We are going to discuss a couple of things. So what's changed over 2024 as we are moving into 2025. And then we are going to discuss our training plan products that we have available for various audit and assurance training officers. So our kind of specialty is the audit and assurance space. And so we have some available items for you that could assist you in terms of administering your training office if you are sitting here as a training officer or otherwise are connected to someone within your training office. So what you may have noticed initially, just quickly going back, is that we have a new name for the competency framework. So we no longer refer to it as initially the 2016 competency frameworks. That was like the old TSR, PSR, and ANA. We moved on from that to CA 2025. And now we've even moved on from CA 2025 because we are in 2025. It's now called the CA of the Future Competency Framework. So just a bit of semantics with a little language change. But in terms of what is expected, not much change over there. We will discuss, in a sense, what has changed from the original CA 2025 to kind of moving into the CA of the future from a competency perspective. We'll discuss that as we are progressing today. So that will be the first part of our agenda. Then we'll move to the training plan product and help you understand and visualize. We'll show you how to import it into EAT to show you that these products do work. And then finally, we'll just brief you on what's changed in terms of the electronic assessment tool, just high level. Of course, we're just here mostly to focus on the training plan product, but maybe just a little bit of extra info. Let's look at the changes to the competency framework. What we had seen last year from the beginning, so 1 Jan of 2024, we had seen SAICA shift the number of competencies or learning outcomes our trainees had to achieve from the 95 that initially came out in 2022 with CA 2025. And as we're now moving into a new competency framework, we are starting to see a change in terms of the competencies that are required by our trainees. So we have 51. They have to achieve 51 by the end of their 3 or 4 or 5-year training contract stint. Now, effectively, what happened was we went from 95 PVAAs or professional values and attitudes or professional values, attitudes, and acumen competencies down to 50. And then SAICA added one new one. And that is how we arrived at the 51. So of the 51, we said one is new. Please note that the new one has not been added to the electronic assessment tool. The new competency is to do with managing others, and that is going to be brought onto EAT from after the end of this year. So right now, if your trainees were to create a learning outcome review, they would not be able to select this competency. If you were to try to import your training plan, let's say from Excel into the electronic assessment tool, you will not see that competency pull through. So it isn't available. SAICA behind the scenes going to manually bring it into your training plans. And then later on, once they do that, then you'll be able to go and decide what rating levels need to be achieved in what PDS cycle. But for the minute, not yet effective, not implemented on EAT, not going to be part of the training plan. It's brand new. And that's some future update that is going to have to happen on your side once SAICA themselves have brought it onto EAT, where you can then go and specify what rating level in what PDS period. As for the remaining 50 competencies, we had a couple of movements or changes. So some were retained in full from the original 95. Those are already implemented. So of course, if there was no change, it was there in the old 95. It's now there it's still there in the new 51 or the updated 51. Then of course that will be available. That's selectable by our trainees in the LORs. In terms of a different type of change, which is to do with wording changes. So if there was a slight word variation or amendment in terms of language in a particular competency or learning outcome, those are already implemented on EAT. What did happen with some of the competencies is that we saw what we call an amalgamation or a combination. That basically means that there were two competencies. And what happened was that they became one. So what could have happened was, let's say the second one was deleted and all of its requirements and what it was called, all of that would have been added. So the wording would have been added to the first one. So we had two separate ones. The second one was deleted, for example, and the two became one. The wording from the latter one was attached or added to or joined to the first one. And those types of changes are currently implemented, meaning the one that was removed was simply 0 rated. If you were to look at a training plan on the EAT, you're going to see SAICA's required level for sign-off is a 0 for the one that was deleted, and its text would have manually been added. So behind the scenes, SAICA would have added it to the one that was retained. These changes are already on the electronic assessment tool. Where things can get a little bit hairy, however, is that we have to then ask the question, what about the previous ratings? What about the previous raw evidence? How are we to proceed? So currently behind the scenes, that is what SAICA are trying to work on. They are trying to figure out, so let's say we had these two competencies. Let's say for this one at the top, the trainee received a 1 rating, and let's say for the latter one, maybe they received a 2 rating. And because this competency is now 0 rated and effectively deleted, what happens to the previous evidence? Does it then get added and it now accumulates? I've got a 1 and a 2, or does it get deleted? What happens? So this is currently what SAICA are working on. It is a manual process at the moment. So if you are needing to sign off any trainees, you're kind of going to have to look at the old evidence and the old ratings, and then look at the competency that was retained. So the old version, or let's say the first one and the second one, you're going to have to look at the evidence separately and the rating separately, and then to come to a combined overall rating. So it's a manual process at the minute. Look at the old evidence, look at the separate competency ratings respectively, and then decide in terms of the overall rating for now the new combined competency. So it is important for you to go to these competencies and to make sure that what the new name or the new description or new requirement is, that you're satisfied that the trainee has been able to demonstrate it based on what the old evidence is saying. Okay, so it's not necessarily just a copy paste. We took the second competency description and just chucked it in and added to the first one. It was sort of combined in a way where they had basically given it a rethink or something like that. So it's not just copy paste like we said. So that's why when we are looking at what's required in that competency and we look at the historical evidence for both of the competencies, we need to apply our minds to satisfy ourselves that our trainees are worthy of whatever overall rating it is we'd like to give them. Okay, so it's not just to say that previously they received a 2 and a 2. We don't just automatically give an overall 2. Look at what the new or the new combined wording is and decide for yourself, or at least as an assessor, decide if you're happy that the historical evidence, the raw evidence that's coming through in the LORs from the past, achieve what is required in this newly worded, newly combined competency. And then from there, that's going to allow you to decide what your overall rating is going to be that you're going to be giving to those trainees. Okay, so that's what this blue cloud is basically saying to you right now. It's a manual exercise. Look at the old evidence for the 2 separate competencies, the 2 separate ratings, and then discern what should be the way forward or what the overall rating should be. So that's the information you need to pass on to your evaluators and your assessors. As we move into 2025, hopefully SAICA will be able to have a system where they take the evidence and they combine it, and then they decide what's going to happen with the ratings. Are they going to take, so let's say, for example, this one was a 1 and this one was a 2. They're going to come up with some kind of, let's say, consolidation. So maybe they're going to say, we'll take the higher of the 2. Then the 1 falls away, and now the overall rating for the combined competency is a 2. Or they might decide the opposite. We're going to take the lower one, and then that becomes the carry forward or the opening overall rating. Okay, so hopefully they're going to be able to give us that kind of guidance and come to a resolution there. But for the minute, it's a manual exercise. You're applying your judgment in deciding on what the overall rating is for now, for the now newly combined competency. So please pass that information on to your evaluators, especially if you are having to sign off some people right now or complete your PDSs, because we're basically at the PDS deadline, today being the final week for the December year-end PDSs. Then we move to the next type of change. That was a split. So some competencies were split into multiple competencies. The one that is most noteworthy is the ethics one. So the code of ethics, there is a competency that lists all 5 of the fundamental principles, so integrity, confidentiality, etc., etc. Those originally and currently on the system are all included under one competency. So let's say your trainee demonstrated the principle of integrity, and then they went on they created an LOR and they chose that competency, and they would have documented the evidence of demonstrating integrity. Then the next week, let's say they had demonstrated confidentiality, one of the other fundamental principles. They'll go and select that same competency and they'll give new evidence. Now, before your evaluators and assessors can sign this off at the, let's say, SAICA required level 3, the trainee has to go and demonstrate each of the 5. So you can't sign them off at a 3 unless they've demonstrated all 5. So in this case, they are demonstrating each of them separately. But by the end, cumulatively, they had to have demonstrated all of them. Only then can you actually get them to sign off levels. Okay. So that competency is still a single competency, part of the change, which is only going to be coming into effect from next year or after the end of this year. It's going to be split out separately. So I'll have one competency for integrity, a second competency for confidentiality, and so on and so forth. Okay. Let's look at another type of change, relocation. So this is where we had a competency that was once an acumen. So PVAA, the second A, and it was moved to a PV first A, professional values and attitudes. So the one that I'm thinking about is emotional intelligence. So currently, if your trainees were to create an LOR and they wanted to select this competency called emotional intelligence, they would still have to go to the old place under acumens. So this is relational acumen. But from next year or from later this year, this emotional intelligence competency is going to be as included as part of PV first days. At the moment, hasn't been updated in the system, as you can see, but in future, hopefully they will get there. Then the final change that happened was that some competencies were removed. So naturally, to get from 95 down to 51, you had to delete some. So the ones that were deleted, you'll still see it in the training plan on EAT. You'll still see it in the template. So the template products we have and the template that's available on the electronic assessment tool. And all SAICA is doing is when you import the trial balance, it's just going to give the ones that were removed a SAICA sign-off level of 0. So it's still there, it's still visible, but it's not selectable. When your trainees are creating LORs, you don't have to worry that they're going to choose the wrong ones that were removed from the original 95. They are not selectable. That's how SAICA has tailored EAT. Those were the core changes that happened. That was moving from 2023 to 2024. And as you can see, lots of those changes are not yet actually active. They're only going to come in perhaps this year, later, or next year, there or thereabouts. Let's quickly take a look at technical. What I just quickly want to point out to you here, ladies and gents, is that when it comes to your technical competencies, we know that there are 265. Think about your technical competencies. This is what our trainees are doing day to day on the ground. So this week they're doing an audit, next week they're doing a tax return, then they are doing a compilation, and so on and so forth. It's the technical tasks that require technical knowledge from university. You can't audit unless you know the standard principles. You can't compile unless you know IFRS. So it's the competencies that relate to you needing some technical acumen. Now, with these technical learning outcomes, we know that you don't assess them. You know that, right? That you are putting a training plan together and you identifying which of the 265 you want your trainees to do based on how you can go about exposing them. For example, if you don't offer tax services, you don't deal with tax clients or tax consultations, then you are not going to include any tax technical learning outcomes in your plan. So in some of the discussions I had towards the end of last year, I realized that a lot of training officers are really going overkill with their training plans and expecting the trainees to do like 150 competencies. Okay, obviously you need to look at your context. Can you actually facilitate that? And go forward based on that answer. So no requirement to do the 265. Decide on the ones that are relevant in terms of what your client service offering is, how you can expose them, and then take it from there. Obviously, we want to try and select some technical from inputs, business activities, and outputs. That's the value creation chain. Now, there are some of the 265 that are compulsory. So I want you to go back to your training plan and then go and double check that you have included the ones that are compulsory. In terms of the training plan products that we have available, those ones are in line with the compulsory requirements. So what are the compulsory of the 265? These are the ones that are, if you are an audit and assurance training office, meaning you offer audit work and you're registered with IRBA as a training office, then the category of technical learning outcomes called audit of historical financial statements, those become compulsory. So let's quickly take a look, see. So you've got inputs phase, business activities phase, and outputs. The 265 are split across these three. Now, the ones that become compulsory, if you are an audit and assurance training office, would be here under outputs, under F, assurance and related services, and then specifically F2. This is the compulsory set of technical learning outcomes if you are involved in audit and assurance. So to help you visualize, here is F2. These are the actual technical tasks that our trainees need to be able to do. There are 18 listed here. 17 are compulsory. The one that's not compulsory is this one here. This one here is audit of a group set of financials. This one has not been made compulsory because not all audit firms have the opportunity to do a group or console set of financial statements audit. Naturally, if you do have clients and your trainees will be able to get exposed to that, then please include it. Okay, so technically speaking, there are 17 under F2 here, which is what you're seeing in front of you. This is all F2 that are compulsory. And if possible, add the group one. If not, they're not compulsory. So make sure that your training plan has included at minimum these 17 if you are involved in audit and assurance. Let's move on to the professional competencies, PVAs. There are 17 in total. They are split across ethics as a competency area, citizenship, and lifelong learning. Here below, these are the changes. So they previously were 8. They are now 9. Why has it gone up? It's gone up because I said to you that for ethics, one of the competencies is going to be split. Currently, it's 1. It's going to become 5. Integrity, confidentiality, blah, 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 all those. So that's why they're a little bit more than before. Right now on EAT, we don't see 5 separate ones. So it's still only visible as 1, selectable as 1, like we said. As for citizenship, we previously had 9. We've now got 4. And the bottom let's say category was removed. Professional citizenship doesn't exist anymore. Then we've got lifelong learning. There used to be four, there's still four, but there was a new category added. Remember I said to you, emotional intelligence. This was a relational acumen. It is being added to PV first aids under lifelong learning. Now, this hasn't been implemented on EAT, like I said to you earlier. Now, previously, under the old 95, we had 21 PV first A's. It was reduced down to 17. Let's look at the second A or acumens. These are split into business acumen, decision-making, relational, and digital acumen. So again, just to quickly draw a contrast, your technical competencies, we only had those 17 that were compulsory if you ordered an insurance, whereas the professional competencies, all 51 are compulsory. All trainees have to do all of them up to the SAICA required level for sign-off. Okay, not debatable. Here are your acumens. We've got business acumen, decision-making, relational, and digital. Previously, we had 11. We've got now 3. We had 11 for decision-making, now 7. And then where the bigger changes are here in relational. So previously, we had 25 learning outcomes, now 13. Included in the 13 is the one brand new one that I told you SAICA added from the beginning of last year. It's still not selectable, still not available on EAT. So this will come probably from end of year or early next year, somewhere there. Another thing that happened was there was a category called emotional intelligence. It used to be number 7 here. That, like we just saw, was moved up to PV first A's. Okay. There's a new number 7 called managing others. This is where we find that one brand new, the 51st competency. Then we moved to digital acumen. Used to be 27, now 11. And one of the categories were removed, cybersecurity. The competency that was in there has been moved to user competencies. So the competency is not gone. It's just been shifted out because that category was deleted. Now, previously, we had 74 acumen. We now have 34 acumen. So 34 plus the 17 gives you 51 and all have to be completed. So that was a bit of a visual in terms of understanding the movements within the competency framework, CA of the future framework. We're now ready to look at the training plan product that we as Probita have available for sale. We've had this product out since the beginning. That means from 2022. What we had to do last year was we had to update the training plan products. And the reason for that was because of the change in the competency framework, like we saw from 95 down to 51. However, in trying to upload it onto the electronic assessment tool, SAICA gave us new Excel templates. So we had to go and transfer all the old plans into the new templates to facilitate uploading onto EAT. So now everything is good, it works, and you'll be able to upload it or import it without too much fuss. Now, the training plan products that we have available are for trainees that are serving a training contract in an audit and assurance space over either a 3 or a 4 or a 5-year training contract period. So again, suitable for audit and assurance training officers. And if in your office you are using various software, so if you are on the one hand using Caseware as your audit software or your review software, compilation software, whatever it is, or Caseware Cloud, and then on the other hand, if you're using DraftWorks, so the RAC template, the independent review template, whatever it is, the property practitioner or legal practitioner template, if that is what you are typically using to render your services in audit and assurance, then we would be able to provide a product for you. Let's say you don't use neither Caseware nor DraftWorks. Can we still assist you? Yes, we can. So we've got templates that can also cater for those that are not using one of those two very popular software packages. So no methodology or no specific software, we also have you covered. Now, the key thing about our training plan is that we've tried to tailor it in such a way that it covers the following auditing or assurance standards. Assurance and non-assurance standards. Now, in the training plan product, there are 3 sheets. There are 2 sheets that you have to tailor. So the sheet that's called IEP, Integrated Exposure Plan, that's code for technical learning outcomes. This is where we list each of the tasks. And for each of the tasks, you must link them to one or more of the 265 technical learning outcomes. Now, we have documented the tasks as thoroughly as we could so as to align them with the requirements in the ISAs, the review engagement standard, the compilation standard, the agreed upon AUP, agreed upon procedure standard, and finally the other assurance standard, which is to do with when you are doing like a trust account audit or something like that. We have built the technical tasks and the technical competencies to align with the standards. So it's extremely thorough. There are lots of tasks. I think they're around about, I could be wrong, but maybe about 70 tasks that we've set it out in relation to that cover all of these respective standards. So obviously, if the trainee is doing a review engagement, then they're not going to choose the tasks or technical learning outcomes to do with audit or with compilation. So we've factored in all these different types of services. And of course, if it's overkill for you, perhaps you don't do compilations, then that's what you can delete from the training plan. But we've tried to provide everything as comprehensively as possible, and then you need to tailor it for your context and maybe delete stuff. You typically wouldn't need to add because we've tried to be as thorough as we can. Now, looking at these products, this is the pricing. It is 2,500 Rand for you to then get access to the training plan products. How we make it available is on our website that we call our manuals hub, meaning there is a link that you go to and you can order, let's say, access to these training plans, and you can download them and keep them on your computer forever. Now, in terms of what you'll find in each of these hubs, so in other words, when you pay the amount, what are you getting? You're getting a training plan template for a 3-year training contract, 4-year training contract, and a 5-year training contract. So this is all included in the one price. So that caters for the different lengths of contract for your respective trainees. Now, in terms of this training plan hub or website, if you will, when you pay the 2,500 Rand, you're effectively given access to whatever is on that website for a year. Obviously, you're going to log on, you're going to log in, you're going to download it onto your computer, and then you generally don't ever have to go back on again because now you've got it forever. But if something happens in a year's time or post a year, so later than 365 days from the day you subscribe, let's say SAICA decide to rechange their training plan, or sorry, let's say SAICA decide to change or update their competency framework and change the competencies all over again, then that means we on our side have to go and rework the training plan products. And if it happens outside of the 365-day time frame, then you would need to rebuy access to the training plan hub to then get the latest changes. Okay. So let's say you've previously subscribed to one of our training plan products, and I just showed to you that we had changes in the competency framework last year. Those 95 to 51. Let's say you were part of the original batch that bought these training plans from us, let's say back in 2022, 2023. So prior to last year's changes, would you need to go and buy new training plan products? No, you wouldn't, because you've already uploaded it onto your platform, onto the electronic assessment tool. However, if you wanted to import brand new training plans, then our old training plan products, so before April last year, so prior to April of 2024, those training plan products would not be compatible with EAT. And the reason for that is because SAICA gave us new Excel templates, which is what we built our training plan on. And so last year during March, April, we had to go and rework them and transfer the old information onto the new templates. So I repeat, if you have previously bought from us a training plan product, let's say in 2023 or something like that, you would not need to buy a new one from us unless you're looking to import your Excel training plan from, or not from scratch, but let's say you wanted to import that old training plan that you got from us in 2023 or 2022. It's not going to be readable by the electronic assessment tool. And in that case, you would need to buy a new one. Okay. So again, subscription service, if any changes happen in the next year, so 365 days from when you subscribe, we will then go and make those changes and you can access it for free. So let's say in 5 months' time, SAICA decide they're going to switch up and change the competency framework, meaning we have to rework our training plans. We'll upload it back onto the hub, and then you'll be able to download it for free. So it's a subscription-based service. So all changes that happen in the next year from your subscription going forward, you will then be able to get for no charge. Happy? So where do we get these training plan products? These are the links. You can just highlight them and then copy paste them in your internet browser. I'm going to quickly show you how it looks. Let's try this one. So this link just takes you to the order form. So this is where you can place your order to obtain the 3 and 4 and 5-year training plan. It's in Excel, and then you import it into your electronic assessment tool profile as a training officer. What I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to show you the manuals website. I'm just going to Google Rebita. Then you will be able to click here. So here where it says products and services, or you can just click here, practice manuals hub. This is where the training plans are sitting if you didn't follow the link. So to our booking site, click on practice manuals hub. Once it loads, then you'll be able to see our manuals. So I'm going to scroll down, some ISQM stuff, FICA stuff, scroll, scroll, scroll. And then eventually you're going to get to the SAICA training plans. So Caseware users, DraftWorks users, and no meth. And then you'll be able to click to order. If you click on the picture, it will just give you a bit more detail about what is included in the plan. But this is why you are in this training session with me. So I'm telling you what's going to be inside. Let me show you how our training plans look. So what effectively are you going to get when you obtain or purchase these training plans? So I'm going to quickly I'll look at a DraftWorks one quickly. So we updated, like we said, last year in April for the new templates. And so this is what you get. You get a batch of 3. You only need to upload one. Sorry, you can upload all of them, but you only need to upload it one time onto TAT, and then you can allocate all of your new intake to this training plan. So you don't have to keep uploading a training plan every single year. Upload it once, it's there, and then you can allocate your trainees, your new intake every year to that same plan. Okay. Let me open up the 3-year training plan to show you what it will look like. So what you'll get effectively, DraftWorks wise. I said to you there were 3 sheets. The first sheet sets out the technical learning outcomes. So the 265 are sitting in these headings. So this is just telling you what they are. The next sheet is where you populate your tasks. So you would have to manually type into column A, and then over here in column B, you would have to go and choose which of the 265 are you achieving by carrying out whatever task you've documented here on the left. Then to the far right, you have to specify in this H column when you expect your trainee to start to do this kind of technical task and achieve the identified or the linked to technical learning outcome. So you just then choose type in 1 or 2. Again, it depends how long the training contract is. In this case, it's a 3-year training contract. So you'll just specify which of the 6 months. So this is based on a 6-month training office. Typically how the audit and assurance industry works, generally 6-month PDS periods. So just to quickly help you understand what our tasks look like. So we manually type this in, and then we try to identify from the 265 which ones would be achieved. And then we applied our minds to think, when would a trainee probably start to do this? And so we decided PDS period 3. So that means from month 13 to month 18, based on a 6-month PDS cycle. So this is the first 6 months, this is the second 6 months, this is the third 6 months. So that's the beginning of the second year if it's a 3-year training contract that they're going to start to do, like, for example, pre-engagement on an audit. So to just show you high level quick, you'll see a big bold heading here that says financial statement audit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom and slide down a few rows so you can see where the next type of engagement or assurance or non-assurance activity starts. So here we have independent review, and then all the tasks that go with independent review. Then I'm going to zoom out a touch. And then we get to compilation engagements and all of the tasks that go with compilation. And then we're going to scroll down and we'll get to agreed upon AUPs and all the tasks that you do as part of an AUP. And then finally, we'll go down and then other assurance engagements. So this is if you do like a trust account audit or you audit something that is not a set of financial statements. Okay, so like a legal practitioner, trust account, property practitioner, that type of thing. So this is how we've set it out. So you'll see there are quite a few rows. It's almost about 300 rows of tasks. Now, this is how we've separated the different tasks. Now to go in, how within the type of assurance service have we then sort of distinguished? We've identified tasks that then fall under the umbrella of the different phases of an engagement. So pre-engagement, we have all the typical tasks. So you'll do acceptance and continuance, your ethical considerations, your independence, that type of thing. Is my team competent? Have we met the preconditions? Blah, blah, blah. Then you go to planning. And in planning, you need to obtain an understanding. Scroll down. Planning, you need to have your discussions. So learning about going concern, fraud, blah, blah, blah. Scroll down. Preliminary analyticals. Planning, calculate your materiality. Planning, do the scoping of the financial statements. Planning, obtain an understanding about the controls, control environment, the 5 control components. Then next, planning, identify and assess risks. Then planning, plan your response, and so on and so forth. So we have taken the separate tasks within the respective phases, and we've raised them or created them or documented them as separate little tasks. And for each task, if a trainee does a task, then they are going to potentially be satisfying the technical learning outcomes. So we've done the agreement or the linking. If they do pre-engagement on an audit, then they would be able to satisfy these technical learning outcomes here. So our trainees need to be able to make the link between what am I doing on the ground, where can I align it to in terms of which task, and then from there, that will then help them know which to select, which of the technical that then is achieved by doing that particular task. Now, for DraftWorks users, what's unique here is that we've identified which document needs to be completed, or what document, if a particular document is completed, then that will satisfy the particular task and then allow them to link to the respective or relevant technical learning outcomes. Therefore, if in the DraftWorks template, the RAC template, if the trainee completed document 1, document 10, so most of the pre-engagement stuff is sitting in section 10. So when they do take document 10.00, so the engagement evaluation, then 10.01, 10.02, etc., then they are achieving pre-engagement, and then they can go and select all these technical learning outcomes. Scroll down. Then we move to planning, obtain, and understanding. So when they start to complete these documents, the section 12 documents, 1225, you name it, then they will be able to link to these technical learning outcomes, and so on and so forth. Having inquiries, fraud discussions, these documents, when they completed, then they can go and select these technical learning outcomes. Preliminary analytical, when they complete document 1125, they can then choose these technical learning outcomes. Okay. So it's very detailed. It tries to show you what they are literally supposed to do on the ground and which documents it aligns with to then make the link to which technical they can start to select from. The second sheet in the document is, the third sheet is the ELP. The ELP is the expected levels of proficiency, which sets out the PVAAs. Now, I told you that the competency framework dropped from 95 to 51, but this template is still old. SAICA haven't given us any new templates other than the ones that came out last year, March, April, when we updated our products. So when you're looking through this document, if you had to quickly do a count, you'll see that it still lists 95 competencies. All the old or original ones are still here. Therefore, how did SAICA go and update this template last year? What did they do? They updated it by switching off or zero rating the ones that were removed or combined. So if you were to quickly add a filter here, we'd then be able to see which ones it is that our trainees now need to do. And which ones they will not need to do. So from your perspective as training officer, where we deselect, so we'll deselect the 0 ones, and then we'll be able to see which ones our trainees are supposed to do. So if you were to maybe do a count here, can you see they're 45? Now, didn't I say there were 51? Well, yes, remember I told you there was one competency that was not brought on yet, a brand new one, the 51st, and there was another competency that was split into 5. Those have not been affected in the electronic assessment tool, nor have they been affected in the Excel template that SAICA gave us, that we built our training plans on. So what is your responsibility then effectively? Your responsibility is then for all those that don't have a 0 rating, you must decide what is the period in which the trainee is going to start to be expected to demonstrate the particular competency listed here. And what overall rating do they need to achieve by the end of that particular PDS cycle? So our training plan products are based on a 6-month training office, a 6-month cycle, PDS cycle that is. So you just need to go and tailor this and say, by the end of period 3, I think they should start to be on a 1. Then 4, 1 again, then maybe a 2 in period 5, and then ultimately a 3, but it must match SAICA's required level on the right in the blue column. Okay. Now, I said to you, some of the changes were already brought onto the EAT. So for example, like where you see these capital letters, these were some of the amendments that they made. So some of it was just wording changes, and I told you those were already implemented. Look at this one here. Apply the fundamental principles, and then it lists all 5. This is the type of competency where SAICA said that in future they're going to split it into 5 separate ones. Cool. So this is how we are to approach. So all you're doing is you're tailoring for when you expect your trainees to start demonstrating and what overall rating at that point in time, and then going forward to match SAICA's required level for sign-off. As for this first sheet, we have the tasks for you. We've got the technical for you. What you're going to do is you're going to go and see, do you think that some of these tasks are not necessary, or you're not going to do it, or your trainee's not going to do it, or maybe some of the services, maybe you don't do compilations, then you must delete all of those rows and then the technical learning outcomes that go with it. So that's how you'll tailor. So you look at the task, do you agree with these tasks? Do you want to take some wording away? Do you want to delete some wording type of thing? And then with that, you must decide if any of these technical learning outcomes are not relevant, then you can just type in 0 to get rid of them. And then finally, you must decide when the trainee is going to need to start demonstrating this technical task, and in so doing, achieving this technical learning outcome. This is how you're going to do your tailoring. Of course, you can go and add extra services. So if you do tax consulting, I don't cater for that. This is audit and assurance. So you'll then need to scroll to the bottom, and then you'll need to go and add some more tasks over here. And then choose the technical, and then what the period is that they need to start demonstrating. So I'm going to close that. That was a DraftWorks example. I'm going to quickly show you a caseware example. I'll choose the 4-year training plan. Again, it's a 6-month training office. That's how we built ours. Second sheet, IEP, you'll see that the tasks are exactly the same. The only difference between DraftWorks and Caseware is the document numbering system. So Caseware uses a slightly different, let's say, section or document requirement or a documents sort of indexing system. And we've just tried to find the equivalent documents. And so when our trainees complete these documents, then they can satisfy themselves that they've done this task and they can go and choose all these technicals when documenting their learning outcome review. So your tailoring is going to be the same as with DraftWorks, and then you're going to decide, is the period correct when they need to start demonstrating these technical? Now, I just want to scroll down to the bottom to here where we have, I'm just going to go down to this one here. Other assurance. So for example, if you're doing a legal practitioner trust account or property practitioner trust account engagement, that is done in Caseware Cloud. So we've got the Caseware Cloud document numbers in to help you in terms of that. So what you are going to perhaps need to think about going forward is if Caseware or DraftWorks bring out new documents or change their document numbers, then you will have to go and update the document numbers in the plan. But for the most part, they typically tend to stay the same. Then for the ELP part, similarly, when do we think our trainees need to start rating or demonstrating these competencies and what rating in what period? And you'll decide. And then the last one I want to point out to you is the NM, no meth. Show you the 5-year plan. In terms of these no methodology training plans, it's mirrored in terms of DraftWorks and Caseware, just minus document numbers because it's no methodology. So we don't really have a document number. So that is fundamentally the only difference. We have all 5 services. So audits, review engagements, agreed upon procedures, compilations, and other assurance activities or other assurance engagements. So here's independent review. So if the trainee was involved, maybe not in planning, maybe they just did execution. So they did the analytical procedures. They had asked about other areas where there could be material misstatements or related parties, you name it, and so on and so forth. So they must decide where they are featuring in the project or in the engagement, and then select tasks and then equivalent technical learning outcomes therefrom. So what I want to then show you now is how to import a training plan into EAT. So how will these products look when you log on to EAT? So I'm just going to slide up, take us to EAT. So this is just the test site. You guys will use the proper site. So once you logged in, then you will be able to go to your administration. So here under admin, you'll then click on the right-hand side training plans. And then there's a blue button here called new training plan. You'll click on that. And then you'll give a name to it. So I'm just going to say 111 A, B, C. Then you decide what's your PDS period length or cycle. I'm going to stick to 6 because our training plans are 6-month cycles. And then we've got the number of PDS periods in this training plan. So I'm going to use 6, showcasing that it's a 3-year plan. Or if I said 8, it's a 4-year training plan. If I said 10, it's a 5-year training plan. So I'm going to choose 6 PDS periods of 6 months each. And then I'm going to press save. After I've hit the save button, screen will load. And then you'll see I can go and manually add the tasks. So if I were to click on integrated exposure plan, I can manually go and add task for task for task for task. Okay, that's not very efficient. Similarly with the ELPs, the professional competencies, the PVAAs, I can go into them individually and then decide what should the rating be in what period. But we're not going to do that. That's not efficient. What we're instead going to do is we're going to click on the ellipses here on the top right, so the 3 dots, and then you can go and say import. So when you click on import, here is the template that's blank. We built our training plan products on this template. This still has the old 95. All right. What you're then going to do is you're going to click on choose a file here. You're going to go and find it on your computer. I'll choose the Caseware one, 3-year plan, click open, and then you can click on the upload button. You're going to give it a hot second. It's going to load. Once it's loaded up, then we'll be able to see all the tasks pull through and what period it's expected to be demonstrated. And then we'll also see the PVAAs in the ELP part of the training plan and what period they are supposed to be demonstrating it up to what rating level. So before you hit the finalize button, ladies and gents, go and double check. So let's open up IEP. Now, what you'll see in the IEP part, this is all the different tasks. So here, financial statements, audit, pre-engagement, all the Caseware documents, and all the activities the trainee does. So they need to match in their minds, this is what I've done on the ground. This is going to satisfy task 1. It's the pre-engagement phase. I've completed these documents. Then I can go and select the 10 technical learning outcomes that align. So these ones at the bottom here. Then you go to the next one, planning. obtain an understanding, all the documents that satisfy that, and the different technical learning outcomes achieved in the process. Then planning again, inquiries, discussions. Then preliminary analytical, document 1052, and all the technicals that are achieved, technical learning outcomes, that is. So these are how we're going to set it out. I'm going to scroll down all the way. So there, I said there were 70. It looks like it's closer to 90 tasks. There are the routes. And all the tasks that the trainee completes, they'll be able to go and select the appropriate technical learning outcomes for. If you want to add extras, by all means, if you want to go into any of them, you can even edit it here on the platform. So if in future you need to come back and maybe add extra document numbers, you can click on the task and you click on edit, and then you can go and add if the document numbers change or updated or something like that. At the bottom, this is where we get to select when our trainee needs to start to demonstrate. So for this task, the corresponding technical learning outcomes. So you'll just go and switch these on and off as is applicable. If this technical learning outcome is not correct or appropriate, you can then go and delete it, clicking on that button. If you want to add more technical, click on the drop down and then go and choose from wherever, and you'll click add. So this is how you can tailor it after the fact once it's on the platform. You don't have to go back to Excel and change it there. That's a little bit onerous. Rather edit it here once it's on the platform. But of course, if you want to re-import that training plan in a future period and you only made the changes here on the platform, then unfortunately, those changes are not going to carry forward. So maybe do both. Update the Excel for future reference, but then also do the plans here on the platform. And that should hopefully sort you out. If you want to delete a task, you can just hit the trash bin at the top there and you're good to go. So I'm going to slide back. Let's go to the ELPs part. Go in. You'll see that we have all 95 competencies listed here, the PVAAs. And we know that that's not appropriate anymore. So I'm going to go into, let's maybe go into lifelong learning. How has SAICA catered for the fact that they've deleted some competencies? You'll see the SAICA required rating level for sign-off is a 0. So scroll down. Can you see here? A is 0 rated. This one used to exist under 95. It was deleted, and therefore it's 0 rated. Therefore, the required rating level will remain 0 because it's not a required competency anymore. Whereas the others, so for example, working in an agile way, so showing agility, different practices or changes, and the trainee is able to step up and face those challenges. This one is still listed. SAICA's sign-off level is a 3, and this is where we can go and tailor. So either in the Excel or here, and please go and update it. So do both if you're going to change, I would suggest, if you've already uploaded it. Okay. This is where we can then go and decide what period they should start demonstrating and up to what overall rating level. Once you've done that, then you can hit the finalize button. So it says you cannot update the training plan after it's been finalized. Please make sure that the training plan is correct for finalizing. The last thing then, ladies and gents, that I want to leave you with is just the changes to EAT. So it's just more like information. It isn't really to do with the training plan products. For the electronic assessment tool, there were a couple of changes that happened to the platform last year. I'm sure you've seen this slide if you've trained with me during last year. I would have discussed this with you plenty, or aplenty. So some changes that happened on the platform. First of all, reports. What this means is that you can, and your trainees can generate reports exported to Excel to keep track of their competency. So previously, if you wanted to keep track of your progress as a trainee or monitor your trainees, you had to kind of do it on the platform. Now there is an export to Excel button that our trainees can utilize to get their reports. So let's see if I can remember where to find this. I haven't done this in a while. Let's see if we can find a trainee. Cameron, see if I can try this trainee. Oh, here under reports. Okay, so you go to trainees and then you search for the trainee. You click on the little, go back, let's click on the eye icon. So choose the trainee. The view button, then you'll go down to reports, and then you'll be able to click on this down arrow here. And when you click on that down arrow, it's going to export it to Excel, and you can see their progress. So I did SAICA training induction yesterday, and I downloaded this very document. So let's see if I can find yesterday's one. So this is how the exported document looks. So it tells you if it's a PV first day or a second day for Acumens, what the competency description is, what the competency area is. Oh, yeah. And then we've got the current rating of the trainee, where they should be, and what they need for sign-off. So our trainees can go and track their progress, or otherwise you can track their progress by downloading it from the platform. So I told your trainees how to get this yesterday if they attended the induction with me, but this is to show you how to do it in your role as training officer. They have the functionality, you have the functionality. So you go to reports, click on this drop down, and you can see their PVAA progress. If you wanted to check their technical progress, technical learning outcomes, similarly, you'll click on that downward arrow there. Let's return. The next thing is transfer PDS. What this means is that if your trainee changed training offices, they left another office and they joined yours, or they are going to leave yours and join another one, they can have their very last PDS document transferred to the new office. That means they don't have to start with nothing. They have their old evidence that then carries forward to the new training office. Note only the PDS that was finalized and the very last one, meaning LORs are deleted. They won't be able to carry the LOR evidence. So the individual LORs, that doesn't get carried forward. Only the last finalized or signed off PDS carries forward to a new training office. So that functionality is kind of done, I think, on TCMS. I can't show that to you on EAT. It's kind of something I think that's done on TCMS. I haven't myself been able to do it. Then we've got another new function, not so new, it's been around for a minute, is the instrument reallocation. This means that if a trainee had sent a document, an LOR, for example, to a reviewer, and the reviewer left your office or your firm, they resigned, or it was a PDS and it was sent to an evaluator and they left the office or the firm, then you would be able to, in your authority as a training officer, be able to reallocate it to a new person to do the reviewing work, evaluating work, assessing work. See if I can remember where to do that. So I think we go to, I think it's monitoring, not sure to remember. Admin. Okay, I'm going to go to trainees, see if I can find someone. Let's try this person again. Okay, so monitoring, then assessments, and then here there are three tabs. The one that's in process, meaning it's still in limbo, it hasn't been finalized. You'll find the particular trainee, and then you'll see there is a spanner. When you click on that spanner, that's where you can go and reassign it to a new role player. So you can decide, but you need to provide a reason. The person left, this person left, etc., etc. So you're looking for the spanner, it's in the monitoring menu, assessments, and then you can reallocate it to whoever. The last thing to point out to you is that the decision trees are in the process of being amended. It hasn't been made final just yet. We have 3 decision trees, one for the LOR for our acumens, and then 2 at the PDS level. The 2 at the PDS level apply to PV first A's and then separately to the second A or acumens. These are set to be updated, but at the moment, we are still using the original ones that came out in 2022. SAICA will obviously let us know. The changes are hopefully not going to be too intense. It's just to bring more clarity. That's the thrust behind it. But nonetheless, these new decision trees are not yet active and available on EAT, and there is no training on it yet because we haven't been told by SAICA that they are going to be implemented. So it's something that we're going to be holding out for later this year, perhaps, or maybe next year. So just be on the lookout for that. So, ladies and gents, that pretty much sums up our conversation today. We want to say thank you for your time. If you have questions or queries, you're welcome to reach out. Send a message to me here in the chat window, or otherwise reach out with a phone call or send me an email. Happy to help you. Visit us on our social sites and give us your thoughts and your feedback on how you find our sessions so we can see how to improve. For now, I bid you farewell as you go into your weekend. Take good care of yourself. May the Lord Jesus bless you and may he keep you till we speak again. Take care and goodbye.